We are on Chaf Amud Beis, 29b. There's Chaf Amud Beis, yeah, Chaf with the two dots. Yeah, there's a little square, there's a little word that says boy inside parentheses, and we're right under that. Or just at the end of that line, sorry. You see little square brackets with the word boy inside, and then four words later. And Yikosher loy kesher, and then mipnei. So what we're discussing here is, we began with trying to understand why it is that the letter Hey, the left leg is suspended. Right? We learned that apparently there used to be a font which connected the left letter to the roof of the Hey. So the Hey is made up with a bar on top, a wall on the right, and the left side is a small little leg, which we said was suspended. Apparently there was some such Hey that had a line connecting it, and we wanted to know why. So we began with the pasuk which says, "Ki b'ka Hashem tzorei Olamim," for God is the Ki b'ka Hashem tzorei Olamim, for God is the eternal rock, and we explained the word eternal, which is Olamim, also means worlds in the plural. So one who trusts in Hashem, which is the first half of the verse, is protected by Hashem in this world and the next world. Olamim plural. So that was one explanation for why the letter Hey is suspended, as in to say you're trusting, even though you don't see it, right? If you felt that connection from the lower line to the upper line, then you wouldn't need that kind of trust. You feel the connection. You feel Hashem is watching you. But the Hey with the suspended leg is kind of indicating that you have to trust. And then but the Gemara pushed a little further, and the Gemara said that the letter Hey has more than that, because the letter Yud is by which Hashem creates the world to come. Well, first, actually, the Gemara introduced a verse which says, or the same verse, B'ka Hashem, because it says, B'ka, for in God, the Eternal One, is the rock of the world, as opposed to saying, God is the rock of the world, adding the word in, Bi, or with, the letter Bi meaning with or in, depending on what the context. So the Gemara interprets the verse to mean, B'ka, with the letters Yud and Hey, Tzorei Olamim is the rock of the worlds. That is to say, the letter Yud created one world and the letter Hey created the other world. And the Gemara says, I'm not sure which one created which. Did the letter Yud create our world and the letter Hey the world to come? Or the reverse? The letter Yud the world to come and the letter Hey our world. And the Gemara concludes by saying that the letter Hey is our world, because the verse says elsewhere, Bihi Baram, in its creation. And the Gemara split the word, Behei Baram, with the letter Hey, he created them. Shemayim V'aretz, heaven and earth, meaning the physical world. So the Gemara therefore says, Have Omer, Behei, Nivra Elam Haza, the Hey creates this world, and the Yud, the world to come. So why was this world created the letter Hey? This is all still from last week. Because there's an opening on the bottom, and that anybody who wants to leave the ways of Hashem, it's like a courtyard with 3 walls, like the Hey has 3 walls, and an opening on the bottom. For anybody who wants to go, it's free choice. That's the marker of our world. It's free choice. A person can leave if they want to. So why is there the letter Hey suspended? So we explained, because if a person wants to return and do teshuvah, he's accepted. Not just accepted, but he's given a helping hand. And that's the Gemara, which is why the Hey needs an extra opening. It's not just enough to climb back in through teshuvah through the same hole the person went out, meaning free choice alone. Although a person has the free choice to do teshuvah, but that's not all there is. There's actually help from Hashem. And moreover, says the Gemara, that if a person does teshuvah with the help of Hashem, he does his free choice to make teshuvah. And Hashem grants him the helping hand alluded to by the opening on the left side on top of the suspended leg. That's the opening on the left side of the Hey. Hashem's help to bring you in. In addition, Hashem ties a crown for this individual who does teshuvah, which is why the letter Hey has a crown. That's Hey and our world. This is all the Gemara on the literal level. How do they think of all these things? This is the tip of the iceberg, as you say.
Moshe taught the Torah, he taught them everything. The alphabet, the meaning of the word behind the alphabet.
You find this interesting. There's a Gemara in Shabbos which goes through every single one of the Hebrew alphabet and explains each one in a positive light and a negative light, depending on where the person is. And likewise, at the beginning of the Zohar, it goes through each of the letters. I think it's the beginning of the Zohar, right? It goes through each of the letters in explaining what their meaning and significance is, and it's interesting to match the Gemara with the Zohar. It's quite an interesting study. At any rate, so now the Gemara asks, "Mipnei ma nivra ha'olam haba biyud." So we understand now, we've elaborated on why the physical world is created by the letter Hey. Now, why is the world to come created by the letter Yud? So says the Gemara, because the righteous who make it to the world to come are few. It's the literal meaning. And the letter Yud, which is essentially the smallest of letters, and it's defined by being a dot, right? And a dot is defined not by what it is, but by what it's not, right? In other words, when you're drawing a point, you're technically making a marker, but what you're trying to indicate is that the marker you're marking takes up no space, right? You're trying to indicate its smallness, not its expansiveness. When you're making a Hey, there's a defined shape, so you need to expand it. Ches has a defined shape. Zayin, all letters have a defined shape. The Yud, although it has these little bends and shapes, as we'll see in a moment what they are all about, but the Yud essentially is defined by being small. So it's because the tzaddikim there are few, so it's indicated by a small letter. So why is its head bent? Right, so the Yud is a dot, but it's not just a regular dot, it's a dot that bends a little bit, right? The Yud is like a tiny little resh. Right, there's a bar on the top and a small little thing coming down. So it's a bent point. Why is that? So, because it's the righteous that are there, the few righteous that are there, bend their heads in humility in face of the actions of other tzaddikim who are there. Why? Because the tzaddikim are not similar to each other. That is to say, there are levels in tzaddikim. Some are higher, some are lower. And every tzaddik looks at the other one and says, this one's much greater than me. And therefore he bends his head in humility to the other tzaddik. So not only, even though he's from the elite few who made it to this letter Yud, to this world to come created by the word letter Yud, he could pat himself on the back and say, look how far I've come. Nonetheless, his head's bent to the other tzaddikim who are there. Each tzaddik bent to the other. Okay, so this ends the discussion here on the creation of the world to come in this physical world. So, promised a little bit to understand this on a deeper level. So perhaps. So the Yud and the Hey, sorry?
You think that once the tzaddiks reach that level, that they're all the same?
No, they're not. Definitely not. More or less different.
We're going to address that. That's a very, very good point. And I'm going to make your question even stronger, and then I'm going to answer your question. And I think that's what the Gemara is going through here. On the one hand, the Gemara assumes at one point that they should all be the same.
That's right.
Because it's a point. They're all such a. They're all. I want to explain that in a moment. That's a very, very good. That's a very, very good observation. Okay.
Good.
So let's learn a little bit about this on a deeper level. What's going on underneath the surface here? In the terminology of Chassidus, we describe creation as yesh me'ayin, something from nothing. Yeah, not Chassidus' invention, obviously.
That's mainstream.
It's mainstream, but these words are very important, which is why I'm saying that Chassidus terminology. Because I'm using these words yesh and ayin, and I'm going to explain what they mean in a moment. Actually, it's borrowed from the Pardes and from Eitz Chaim. Something from nothing, or I think in Latin it's ex nihilo, right? But I want to stick with the word something from nothing because they actually mean something. So, Chassidus doesn't ask this question directly, but it kind of addresses this idea of why are we calling it something from nothing? What was there prior to creation? Hashem. So we're calling Hashem nothing and we're something? Something from nothing. So we are created from Hashem. So why are we calling it something from nothing? Perhaps we should say the reverse. From the great something, Hashem, comes a little nothing, a world.
Something.
Yeah, a little nothing comes from the great something. So why are we calling it something from nothing?
Yeah.
Sorry? So let's explain. So let's understand this. I'm not asking the question because I don't have an answer. I'm asking it to lead to a point. So let's see where this goes. So let's understand what this means. When we say nothing, especially when Chassidus says ayin, it doesn't mean something doesn't mean that the entity doesn't exist. It means its existence is nothing we can define. Even in English, it works out. Because in English, the word nothing is not a definitive description. It's a negative description. It's not anything.
No thing.
No thing. It's not that it doesn't exist, but it's no particular thing that we can identify. So when we say something is something, we're giving it a definition and limiting it to that thing. Just briefly walk you through this, and you'll see what I mean. When I say I have an entity in my home, I've given one description, that it's in my home. So you know it can't be too big. But within that one description, I've already excluded billions of entities. It can't be the sun, it can't be the moon, it can't be the world, and it's got to be something big. It can't be this building, because this building is bigger than my home, right? And then I say the entity I have in my home is an object. I've given out two descriptions. Now I've gotten no animals, no humans, not a plant, and then I say the object is a utensil. Now, with every word I give, that's what I'm telling you, with every word I get, I'm limiting it more and more and more. So that is a something, right? As soon as I say it's a something, that means I'm implying that there are a bunch of descriptions you can give to that thing, limiting it to being that something and nothing else. But when I say nothing, not nothing as in it doesn't exist, but nothing as in it cannot be defined by anything that I know. So in fact, when we say something from nothing, we actually mean this in the greatest compliment to the nothing, in a way. In that Hashem's existence is nothing we can possibly imagine. So we are some things, a bunch of defined entities, that come from a nothing, an undefined truth. Hashem himself. So this is what's referred to, and so this as the perspective from below to above. Das Tachten. The verse says, Kel Deus Hashem. Hashem is the Lord of knowledges in the plural. So there's two knowledges. There's two visions of the world. Das Tachten, the knowledge from below to above. And that's what we just described now. From our vision, we have a bunch of some things, and God is this nothing that we cannot define. And then there is Das Elyon, the vision from above to below. From above to below, what's the truth? From above to below is Lamayla Yesh Ulamata Ayin. That Yesh Amiti, what's the true existence? Not Yesh, not something as in the way we just defined it before, something as in it's a particular item that you can define with a certain set of descriptions, but rather Yesh, the true existence. What's the true existence from the vision of Hashem? He's the true existence. And Ayin, this world is nothingness, and compared to his truth. So there's two visions. There's a vision from below to above, in which these are all the defined somethings, and God is the great nothing that we cannot define. And then there's a vision from above to below, in which the true existence is Hashem. That's the Yesh HaAmiti, the true existence. And below, this physical world is Ayin, is nothingness, and compared to him. Those are the two visions. And this is, sorry?
So an atheist, somebody who claims that they're an atheist, is totally from this world and does not
see the other perspective.
Anything or rejects.
I suppose,
in
yeah.
a sense.
I suppose.
Yeah.
So what are angels? Are they nothing?
In the context of this discussion, that's a good question. So let's do the two perspectives.
Creations, like anything else.
Yeah, so from the perspective of Hashem, they're creations like every other, and they're nothing. From our perspective, even an angel, there are degrees. So to one degree, you can say an angel also has the element of nothing, because it's not anything we can define. On the other hand, it does have descriptions. So for example, we can say one angel is kindness. Okay, so maybe it's an ethereal kindness, and it's not a kindness that I can tap with my fingers like I do in this physical world, but at least I have words to describe it, so it's still a something.
Has attributes.
Yeah, it has some description, has attributes, has some descriptions. So it's like I can describe an idea even if I can't touch it. So ideas also have some things. So even an angel has an element of something. Anyway, so these two perspectives are perhaps the Gemara's initial understanding, asking, I don't know which one's which. Is the Yud this world, or is the Hey this world, or is it the reverse? Because Yud, as we just described, is the definition of nothing. It's about Ayin. It's a dot. It's a point describing a place of nothingness. Not nothingness in negative sense. Nothing. Well, what it's not. Yud is defined by what it's not, and Hey is an expansive letter defined by what it is. So, which perspective are you taking? If you're taking God's perspective, then His truth, the world to come, is Hey. His truth is a hey. His truth is the real truth. This world, yud, it's an ayin, it's nothing. It's a dot. Or we take our perspective, the reverse. Our world is a bunch of somethings, a defined something with, it's a big hey. Hashem, he's a yud. I can't define him as nothing, it's defined by a point. And that's perhaps the Gemara is asking, which perspective should we take? Even though both perspectives are true. And the Gemara concludes that we're going to go with our perspective, from below to above. Because as I mentioned, the pasuk says, Kel Deus Hashem, God is the God of knowledges, plural, two perspectives. And it's important that we note this, because one might have thought that the perspective from below to above is a fallacy. You might think that, look, what's the real truth? The real truth is that Hashem is this great something. Our world is nothingness. And this whole perspective that we are something and God is nothing because we can't define it, that's a fallacy. It's our shortcoming. That's what one might have thought. But the truth is, it's not true. Our perspective is a true perspective. It's a perspective God created. God created such a world and such a space that sees itself as something and sees God as a nothing that can't be defined. An ayin, a yud. And it's by design that Hashem created that perspective. For what reason? For free choice. If we didn't have that perspective, if we saw the perspective that the only truth is Hashem, then we wouldn't have free choice. And thus says the Gemara, we have to go with the perspective that our physical world is created by hay. Why? Because there's an opening on the bottom so people can have free choice. Following? You see how the Gemara is flowing here? And yet, notwithstanding the free choice, there's still a suspended hay in that even in our perspective, even from our perspective, where there's free choice, and a person might think is lost hope because this is the perspective Hashem created. Hashem created a perspective of where our world is the something and he is the nothing that can't be defined. For free choice, you might think you have free choice, you're stuck with your choices, and that's the end of it. Says the Gemara, not true. Even from our perspective, Hashem interjects in our world options and availability, and not just availability, but actually help to climb up. And moreover, when a person does climb back up, what does the Gemara say? Hashem ties a crown for this person. What did we say the crown meant? As we described before, the crown is indicative of that which is transcends, that which is super rational, that which transcends the whole system. Because the truth is, teshuvah does transcend the system. The famous medrash goes, if you ask Torah, what does a person do if he should sin? Yamus. The system says, you failed, you fell out of it, your free choices, you're stuck with your free choices, that's the end of it.
Is there a crown for the yud?
Sorry?
There's no crown for
The yud actually does have a little one.
It does?
A koitz, it's not a crown. It's a spike, we mentioned it before.
Maybe that would be more support why the hay is down here, because of the tying of the crown on the hay.
On the hay. Yes, Hashem ties a crown on the hay for the one who does teshuvah. Right? That is to say, the power to do teshuvah, or moreover, when a person does teshuvah, what he reaches here is a level of Hashem's transcendence. Keser. Because the system, Keser, the crown, which is transcendence, because the system does say, you failed.
But you have a crown that you're also involved.
Sorry? We'll get to the moment. It's a koitz, it's not even time. But here specifically, who's the hay tied for? Who's the crown tied for, as the Gemara says, for the one who does teshuvah. He gets help, and he gets a crown. That is to say that not, first of all, in our world, even though there's free choices, you're never stuck with your choice because there's help from Hashem to climb up. Even in our world, where our perspective is, we are the something, and you have free choice to do as you wish. And moreover, you have Hashem grants the person the ability to transcend, because at the end of the day, the only way to do teshuvah is to transcend. A person has to dig deep into a place where he transcends even his own sin, so to speak. That says in Tanya, that even at the time of sin, a person really didn't want to transgress Hashem. It's only, as the Gemara says, a spirit of foolishness fell upon him temporarily. So when a person digs deep down within himself to a place that transcends his whole mistake, he reaches to Keser, he reaches to Hashem's crown, which transcends the system, because the system Taka says, you failed. But the Teshuvah person transcends that. And then comes the Yud. The world to come is created by Yud. The world to come is a world where they experience the ayin of Hashem, where they live in a world where the nothing of Hashem, in air quotations, is felt. That is to say, they feel and live a world where Hashem is the only reality. And this world is not.
This world is nothing.
That's right. So you would think, like Alan says, if that's the case, then all tzaddikim are the same. Because all they see is Hashem's reality. If Hashem is the only reality, Hashem is the only reality. What else is there? Says the Gemara, that's not true. That would be if they, right, I mentioned before that both perspectives are true. So if they went from Hashem's perspective, really, then you're right. It would just be Hashem, 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 and that's it. Where everything else is nothing. But that's not the perspective they have here. They have the perspective of below to above, but they've climbed from below to the above. That is to say, like in the words of Chassidus, Hashem makes ayin liyesh, Hashem makes nothing into something, and our job is to make yesh la'ayin, to turn something into the nothing. That is to say, to reveal that in the truth of that in this something of this world, deep down, it's really the nothingness of Hashem. That what keeps our something in existence is the nothingness of Hashem that propels it to stay in existence. So they've gone not from Hashem's perspective. A tzaddik doesn't go from Hashem's perspective. A tzaddik lives in this physical world, and in this world finds the truth of Hashem. And when you're going from below to above, so to speak, we're still looking from the perspective of below to above. There are levels, but it's all under the underpinnings of all these levels is humility, and therefore, even with these levels, each tzaddik looks at the other one and says, "I'm humbled before you." And thus the yud, although it's a point, still has some definition, and it even has a little spike to allude to something which is even higher. Right, the koitz shel yud. Right, there's in
Koitz is a cup.
koitz is a spike, not koitz, koitz, kuf vav tzadik, a spike. The yud still has a definition, right? So when we, for example, when we say in the yud hey vav hey, the yud is chachma, and what's the koitz? The little spike on top of the yud alludes to keser, alludes to that which transcends, because it can't be even lo yisam is le b'shum ois. It can't be alluded to in any letter. It's only in a little spike. So even the yud has some definition, and it too alludes to a level that's higher, because over here we're not talking about Hashem's actual perspective. We're talking about perspective from below to above. But the perspective of below to above that a tzaddik has attained, that through this world, what does he find? The truth of Hashem's ayin, the truth of Hashem's nothingness, which keeps everything in existence.
Maybe the word nothing is not really
I know.
It's a terrible word.
That's why I gave the definition at the beginning, because nothing implies that doesn't exist. That's what I'm saying. It's nothing as in the definition we gave earlier, not that doesn't exist, but it's nothing we can define.
Undefinable.
Undefinable.
Undefinable would be a better.
That's correct.
Undefinable nothing.
That's right.
Nothing.
That's why I said before.
People latch onto that, saying, "Well,
That's
there's
right.
nothing up there."
No, it's undefinable.
That's not the point. The point is it's undefined.
Yeah.
Should there be something that's undefined?
Sorry?
Shouldn't it be there's something that's undefined?
Right, when you use the word something, I don't know if it works out in English as well as it does in Hebrew. That's why you said that.
Because you can't say Hashem is nothing.
No.
Right, it's not.
Undefinable.
It's not nothing as in it doesn't exist. That's what I explained before. It's nothing as in it's not defined by anything that we can possibly. It's no thing. So what is a thing? A thing is all these different things we have in this world.
Undefinable. That's
You can't call Hashem a thing.
Sorry?
Undefinable.
That's right. You can't call Hashem a thing. That's the point. That's the point of the word ayin. It's undefinable. The reason why we call Hashem an ayin is because it's undefinable to us, and that's what the tzaddik finds. The tzaddik finds in this world the undefinable truth of Hashem, and because he's finding it in this world from perspective of below to above. Therefore, there are levels. To what degree does this person feel this truth? To what degree does he understand this truth? Okay, the old Jewish philosophical adage is, if I'd know, I would be.
They're not.
So if I fully understood the different levels of tzaddik, I'd probably be one of these tzaddikim. But I'm told that there are levels that exist within depth of appreciating the undefined truth of Hashem, even as it's embedded in our creation. Were you going to say something, Robert? That's what I'm alluding to. Yeah, 1 second. Just wanted to ask.
Those 2 points of view, they sort of overlap. They're not clear.
That's a good point. That's a good point. So
the tzaddik here is an example.
Yeah, so you're saying that the two versions overlap.
He belongs up there, but he learned the truth down here.
Yeah, so the truth is that Chassidus actually makes 3 levels and divides them into 4. Yesh Amiti, the true existence of Hashem. The ayin, the nothing. That is, the divine energy that Hashem invests in creation is nothingness in compared to the essence of Hashem. Right? And then there's the nothing that actually, the great nothing, the undefined nothing that propels our creation. That's the next level of ayin. And then there's the yesh nivra, the somethings of our world. So they overlap at the place of nothing in the middle. Right? Now it's a little bit mind-blowing. It's a little bit difficult. I didn't want to go there, but since you asked. That's correct. Yesh, ayin, yesh. That is the yesh amiti, the truth of Hashem's existence. That's the truth. And then there is the minute nothingness of divine energy that Hashem emanates from himself to create. And then there's the actual emanation as it's in creation. And then there's creation itself. So our perspective is we are something, and all we can see is the nothing that's embedded in our the ayin, the undefined truth that's embedded in our creation to keep it in existence. That's the best we can get. But beyond that, there's where did that divine energy that's invested in our creation that's undefined to us, where did it come from? It emanates from God himself. And that's the yesh amit, that's the true existence. All right, so in a way it's actually separated, even though they overlap in the middle somewhere, as you say. Which helps us understand a little bit more what the tzaddik is seeing in the yud. The tzaddik, when he sees the yud, the undefined truth, he's not necessarily seeing God's true existence. What he's seeing is the divine energy that's invested in creation. It's ayin shel yesh nivra, as it's referred to. It's the undefined divine energy that is embedded in creation to keep it in existence. A simple way of putting it is, he sees in everything that exists the undefined truth of Hashem. But that undefined truth of Hashem that's embedded in creation is still nothing in compared to the great truth of Hashem, right? And therefore, even the tzaddik's appreciation of the yud is on levels, because it's still within the world of creation. It's still within the perspective from below to above, as opposed to above to below, which God is the true existence. Everything that follows is nothing. I hope we're getting some sense of the depth of what's happening here.
So in other words, it's pretty accurate when we describe the world to come as we're going to be in the radiance of Hashem, meaning
That's correct.
Here we're in darkness, so to speak.
That's correct.
And there we're going to see more, have more
That's
knowledge
correct.
and more light,
Yeah.
more in his basking in his glow.
Yeah. So I want to add something actually, since you said that, I want to mention earlier. The Gemara says that the reason why there's a yud in Olam Haba is because tzaddikim shebay muatim. That tzaddikim there are few. There are very few tzaddikim that are in this, get to this place.
Have arrived there.
Right. In Tanya, it identifies two levels of tzaddikim. One level of tzaddik, which is taka muatim, reisi tzaddikim she muatim. That's what the Medrash says. And Hashem spread them throughout the generations because there are so few of those. That's the highest level of tzaddik, the one who
They're hidden.
They're hidden or not. If they're hidden or not hidden, but at the level of tzaddik, for those who come to the Tanya shir, you know what I'm talking about. The level of a tzaddik who is not just his negative inclination is subdued, but his negative inclination is completely transformed, and he's disgusted. He's repulsed by anything that's not godly, as described there in Tanya. Right? That's the higher level of a tzaddik, and those are very few. Right? That's one understanding. It's not to say that there are tzaddikim who don't make this level that are still tzaddikim, as explained there in Tanya. Number one. Number two, one might add that it's not just tzaddikim shemotim, that there are few tzaddikim, but tzaddikim sheboy. The tzaddikim that are in this level are defined by being mu'at, are defined by making themselves small. By their humility. And therefore they're each kafuf, they each walk around in humility in face of the other tzaddik. Like the point. Yeah. So it's not just a definition on how many tzaddikim there are, but actually the quality of what kind of tzaddik we're talking about. Where tzaddik defined by being a mu'at, being someone who's very small.
So when you say Moshe, Rabbeinu Moshe was the humblest of all.
Moshe Rabbeinu.
Yeah.
Yeah. Humblest of all, humble before every man. Right? Means even before people who aren't tzaddikim, he was humble. Never mind being humble before other tzaddikim, humble before everybody. So this addresses that.
Humblest of all.
Yeah, so this addresses
that we've encountered so far.
Yeah.
That came to us.
Yeah, the Frierdiker has a beautiful explanation on that. What this means that Moshe Rabbeinu was humble before every man.
Was he a tzaddik?
Moshe Rabbeinu was the highest tzaddik you can possibly get.
Yeah, but most of the stuff came out from his words that he spit out were God's words.
That's the point. He's so nothing that he was just a straight conduit for Hashem's truth.
That's all he was.
Because he was mu'at. He was so nothing.
Not all.
What do you mean that's all? That sounds so
No, yeah, no, in other words, the highest level is that you're nothing other than Hashem. That's the point. You're getting from yesh, you're getting from a bunch of descriptions, a bunch of somethings. I'm a smart person, I'm a this, I'm a that, I'm a that, to being defined by I am nothing. You're nothing. You're just a conduit for Hashem. Like Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai said, "Anasi mana ba'alma." I'm only a marker on this world. What do you mean I'm a marker? I'm so nothing. What am I defined by? I'm just a marker. Oh, here goes a godly soul. That's all I'm defined by.
Is Mashiach going to resemble that?
Mashiach, the point of Mashiach is to reveal that within you. That there's a part of you. our godly soul deep down that feels this truth all the time. That's the Yechidah Shebenefesh, or the Mashiach Shebenefesh, if you will, even. Right? Which explains why the Rabbi mentions this often, that on Yom Tif, when the Aron is open, we ask Hashem we ask Hashem that He should give upon us. We quote the verse, and we say that Hashem should grant us a spirit of knowledge, a spirit of understanding, a spirit, etc., etc. When the verse actually comes from Isaiah describing Mashiach, we're asking Hashem to be Mashiach. That's not what we're asking. We're asking that the part of us deep down that knows this truth to be true, we should feel it. And that's what Mashiach is, to reveal this in everybody and the whole world. To quote the verse as cited by the Rambam, is Mala Aretz De'es Hashem, the world is filled with the knowledge of God, Ma'am Machasim, as the ocean covers the seabed. That is to say, the truth of Hashem is as obvious as the table and the phone we are looking at right here. All right, have a wonderful day, everybody.
Sure.